If you've ever wondered how to regulate your nervous system, you are in for a treat. Today, I'm interviewing Stefanie Bros, who is the founder of Moonbird. Moonbird is this little handheld device, kind of shaped like a bird and an avocado at the same time, but it's named after a very, very special bird, which you'll find out about in our interview. And what this device does is it expands and contracts, very subtle, so you may not be able to see it on camera, to help you regulate your breath. In addition to Moonbird, there's Moonbuddies, which is a perfect companion for children to help them regulate their breath and regulate their nervous system. As many of you probably know, if you're watching any of our interviews, if you've ever worked with us or see our message, you know how important a regulated nervous system is. And in fact, it's really the foundation for health and healing. And so when innovative solutions like Moonbird come along, I get super excited because of the immediate impact it can have on turning your breath into a pharmacy for your body and to soothe your nervous system in a very regulating way. Some people soothe our nervous systems through food, but what if we could use our breath? And what if we didn't have to think about it or count our breath and we could just tap into this beautiful device that expands and contracts to regulate our system and therefore regulate our entire biology. So this is a very fascinating interview. It leans deeply into how to change the way you breathe and why to change the way you breathe and why you should start as early as possible. So this goes out to all the parents, grandparents, would-be parents. The way your child breathes is crucial to their, immediate health and of course their long-term health as well. So enjoy the interview. And as always, if you enjoy the information we share, please please comment, and most importantly, please share with others so that more people can hear this impactful information. And to get all of our videos, please subscribe to our channel so you can stay up to date with strategies to keep yourself healthy, happy, and whole for your entire life using simple, really embarrassingly simple, if I may say, ideas and concepts that produce rapid transformation and turn your body into your greatest ally. Enjoy the interview. Welcome, Stefanie. Thank you for joining me today. And thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule as a new mom and spending this time with us. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Sachin, for inviting me and for creating this platform where people can share their enthusiasm and knowledge about these important topics. Thank you for that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So where does your interest in the nervous system and breathing start? Let's go there.
Yeah, that's actually an interesting question. I think it happened almost like 15 years ago, 20, 15 years ago when I was still at uni. So I actually am a scientist by training. I studied biomedical sciences. I did a PhD in pharmaceutical sciences and so on. So I was actually always very interested in what makes us sick, but also what can we do to keep ourselves to be healthy. And not only in like the pharmaceutical side of things, because obviously that's very important, and we need to, or we know now how to chemically interact with a lot of systems in our body, but also during my study, I found it super surprising actually that I wasn't brought into contact with many of the more mental ways of changing how we feel and potentially how diseases start to exist. And so it's during my education actually that I turned into these more alternative practices, which always sounds a bit pejorative, but I started doing yoga myself, and then through yoga I discovered meditation. And I found this just super interesting and profound how these, non-pharmacological ways allow us to check in with ourselves and also change, how we feel, and that then impacts, how stressed we are, and that impacts, certain pathways of diseases and so on. So all these things are linked, and I found that just super fascinating.
Yeah, one of the things that really blew my mind, no pun intended, about breathing and really some of this timeless wisdom that you're talking about that we'll unpack even further is that it's so simple and it's almost embarrassingly simple. to the point where people may not even believe that it's possible, that they're probably just scratching their head like, I'm trying to solve this complex problem, and you're providing me with a very simple solution that leaves people in disbelief. And, you know, when people learn how to regulate their nervous system, it still puts me in a state of shock and awe how amazing our bodies are when we feed them the right information. And
Mm.
the breath is really our life force. So it's
Right.
really the most important food that we eat, right?
Right.
It's our food from source. So if we can't access it appropriately because we're just not even aware that that's something that's available to us, then
Mhm.
it becomes something that unconsciously could lead to our demise. But if
Right.
regulated consciously, then can every breath is now a step in the right direction instead of the wrong direction.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. Yeah. Like how could it be? And that I mean that with all respect for all the tutors that I had during college and so on, because they were really great. But how is it possible that I studied for 9 years and I wasn't aware of these things, right? So
Hmm.
that's a little bit when I started to discover that for myself. And then in parallel, I during the end of my PhD, I suffered from a lot of stress, rounding everything up. And you're 4 years working up to this big ending milestone, and that gave me a lot of stress. And it's then that I not only was triggered by how interesting and fascinating it was, but I also needed it because I felt that my nervous system was very unregulated, which led to sleeping issues. And that's a time that I really started experimenting with this and also reaping the benefits of this for myself. And that's the moment that I said, okay, I need to do something with this because I want to make sure, that this is common knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
I want to make it more easy for people to tap into these benefits. I want to create not only like tools and devices, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but also like a platform that creates more awareness around the positive benefits and effects of breath in general.
What who have been your biggest skeptics? Like, I know that sometimes when we're introducing such what seems like such a foreign and simple concept to people, people tend to be skeptical because they just don't want to believe that it can be that simple. Or is there a particular crowd that you notice is more receptive or more skeptical to the idea that accessing our breath is a healing opportunity?
Not really, actually. I've been quite pleasantly surprised with how open people nowadays are towards these kind of techniques. And
Mm-hmm.
that like warms my heart because I think in the beginning I had expected much more pushback from people. Obviously, there are still some people critiquing us, and sometimes when you read, like we're active on Meta doing advertisements in order to reach people, and sometimes there you read the comments and it's like garbage.
Yeah.
um, but there are also so many people like positively commenting below the advertisement, saying like it really works and this is not like some weird woolly thing. So I've been more pleasantly surprised than the opposite, yeah, luckily.
Yeah. It's amazing because I know that when I speak about breathing and really go into the science, people, even pulmonologists, will come up to me afterwards and say, "Thank you." Like, I never really looked at it the way you've presented it and kind of connected all these dots for me.
Right.
And, and then they're just like, "Oh my God, like this is amazing," right? It's like the science is unequivocal. And if you look at just the physical aspects of what breathing does for us, even if you take away any of the healing properties, but the necessity to breathe correctly to assist our heart, to assist our lymphatic system, to support our myofascial system, and
Mhm,
all of our fascial systems are dependent on a healthy diaphragm. So
mhm,
you know, if we just kind of look at it through that lens, we start to realize, wow, this very unique muscle that I have full control over has been
mhm.
working for me 24/7 from the moment I've been born.
Right.
It's there working in the background as a baseline, but if you can control it, it's like the steering wheel for your
Mhm.
heart, for your lymphatics, for your emotions, for your myofascial system, for your trauma. Like it really gives you control of your amazing body. And it's just something that I wish I had known sooner, that I wish we had learned more about. As chiropractors, we learn about a lot of holistic modalities and interventions, but most of them are outside of you.
Yeah.
And it's
Or they're
supplements or treatments.
Yeah, or they're like fragmented way of looking at things.
Mm-hmm.
And the interesting thing for me, at least for the breath, is that there are so many layers or angles that you could look from where you could look at it, and they're all super interesting. Whether it's from like a functional breathing perspective, whether it's from an emotional regulation perspective, whether it's from a performance perspective, there's so many ways to look at it and tell I wouldn't say story because it's not a story, but tell the truth and the
Mm-hmm.
importance of it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. So in your journey, um,
Mhm.
now you're tapping into the importance of breath, nervous system regulation. I'm sure you searched for other tools or ways to help people become more aware of the breath. What did you discover in that process that was kind of missing, that wasn't supportive for people to make some of these positive changes to their breath?
Yeah, so my story with the breath in particular was that I was first experimenting a lot with meditation, doing
Mm,
some meditation courses. And back then I thought meditation and breathing is like all the same, because most of the time when you breathe, you use your breath as an anchor, right? Because it's something that you always have with you. It's like
mm,
fluctuating, so it's interesting to meditate on and so on. But breathing actually is very different in the sense that, or breathing exercise is very different in the sense that you actively change the parameter of your breath. Most of the time, that's the rhythm at which you breathe. And that elicits almost immediate physiological effects in your body, right? So I
mm-hmm,
learned about that by looking at the science behind breath work and then obviously implementing it for myself. And I was so convinced of this tool that I was learning to master, but I found myself struggling with consistent practice, which is something that a lot of people struggle with.
mm-hmm,
And it is key to reap the benefits of something. It is like to learn to understand how to master it and to do it as well. Um, and so I know for myself that I need a little bit of extra help to do things. Like I need to go to yoga class in order to do like a really good yoga session. I can
mm-hmm.
start a session at my home, which I sometimes do, but after 10-15 minutes, I'll probably say like, okay, I practice yoga. It's fine. We'll call it a day. Whereas if I go to class, I stick there for an hour and a half and I have this very intense practice and I have much more benefits of it. And so it was a bit the same with breathing. So I was doing these exercises on my own, but I felt that it was difficult to stay track to keep focused on it and to keep doing them, which is when I started just like Googling and finding out what kind of tools and apps are there out there that can support me. And that's when I used Headspace and Calm, the well-known meditation apps, which are great. I really love them. I think they're really really good tools. But when you're having sleeping issues, like the last thing you want to do is like open your smartphone, because I noticed for myself that I was checking my emails again. I was thinking about
Mm,
work again. Your phone is just so connected with other stuff and high-paced performance things, that I knew for me at least that was not the right way to go. And that's when I thought by myself, like, how can I guide myself in a different way, not being visual or auditive cues, because these tend to keep me awake for some reason. Like my brain is still on when I'm processing these
right.
signals. um, and then at some moment it just literally felt like a very intuitive solution to use a sense of touch to guide myself, like I would be holding an animal that's living, or the idea of a mom like cradling a baby to sleep and the mom being very calm and the baby feeling the breathing rhythm of the mom, and then mirroring this. That for me felt like super intuitive and super, yeah, organic in some sort of way. So that's when I woke up and I had this idea of like a breathing object, an object that expands and contracts, giving you a pace
Mm,
that you need to match with your breathing, through which you almost automatically mimic this rhythm while not having to think about it too much. And that I introduced that idea to my brother, and he also loved it. And that's almost like the next day we went to a product development agency. We said like, we have an idea, we want to develop it. And that's how it all started.
Wow, I love that. When something so innovative and simple in conception, right? It's obviously, I'm sure it wasn't simple to build and create and make it all work and write the software in the app and uh, go to production. But the idea of it seems so intuitive that you would wonder, why didn't anyone else think of this?
I
Right?
couldn't believe that, right?
Yeah.
So that's the next day I went to the internet, I started Googling this, and I was like, this is such like, there are probably 10 of these devices that already exist, but it wasn't. And then I almost immediately thought, there probably is a reason why this can't exist yet. Like it's either too expensive to make, or people have tried it and it doesn't work, or whatever. But yeah, we started it. We made a business plan out of it. We went to some business people to challenge our business plan. We went to doctors immediately. I went to like a renowned neurologist here in Belgium as well. I introduced the idea to him. We went to lots of GPs, to pharmacologists, and so on. I really wanted to have like that external validation from other people and
Hmm.
actually like shoot it down, saying this is not a good idea for this and that reason. But everybody said and confirmed we need more of these tools. We need alternative ways to regulate our nervous system and to use our breath in a non-pharm or use tools that are non-pharmacological, because we have a stress crisis, we have an insomnia crisis.
I love that. Uh, I think it's a brilliant idea. I know you've got one in front of you. So if you want to show us what it looks like, and that's the same one that
Yeah.
I have.
Yes.
So
So
tell us where the name Moonbird comes from and what inspired the design, because it is a very unique product.
yeah, so for the people not looking, this is like an avocado shaped device. It's actually based on the shape of an avocado because we had, when my brother came over for dinner, we had this fruit basket in front of us and we were trying these shapes. We had like a lemon, we had a pear, we had an avocado, and finally the avocado ended up to being like the most fitting in your hand. And so there is one part where you put a thumb on a sensor, and this sensor also captivates your HR and HRV. So if you want, you can optionally combine it with an application and check your biofeedback to see how your body responds in real time to the breathing exercises. But the shape itself is like it's avocado form, and it has these wings in it, and these wings expand and contract. And so by that, it gives you this space, and when it expands, it signals you to breathe in. And when it contracts, it signals you to breathe out. And the name itself is actually, it's also a funny story. So there, it's actually a moonbird is a real bird that used to live. Unfortunately, he passed away, but it's a small red knot bird. And he used to fly every year from the Arctic in Canada to the Terra del Fuego in Argentina and back. And so researchers put like a ring around his paw and used to follow him and track
Hmm.
when he flew that distance. And so over the course of his lifetime, he flew more from the distance from the Earth to the moon and back. And
Wow.
because of that, the researchers baptized him the Moonbird. And he's a signal for longevity, for being healthy, being fit. He even has his own Wikipedia page. And we love that name. It wasn't taken by any other company back then. And then, yeah, we found it like a really good fitting name for the company.
Wow, what a beautiful story. I love that. Uh,
Yeah.
you know, one of the things that whenever I speak about breathing, and I'm sure this may come up for you, um, is I really tend to focus on the way children breathe, even if I know uh, it's all adults in that room and they're all listening for themselves and their patients, and who they don't know they need to be listening for is their children or their grandchildren or their future children. Because I believe, and I'd love to hear your thoughts, is that the way we breathe, especially as a child, has such a huge impact on so many systems in our body that it needs to have just as equal attention to or maybe even more than to the quality of food that our children are eating. Right? Parents are very conscientious of what goes in their child's mouth, but we need to pay attention to the way they're breathing because they consume more air in a day than food.
Hmm.
So I'd love to hear your thoughts on and why, share with our audience why paying attention to the way a child breathes is so important. And that
Yeah.
might, lead us into kind of the next innovation in your company as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's completely true. Like we as babies, we're all born as perfect breathers. If you just think of a baby, and I just had one a couple months ago, and so it's like very clear and visible. It's in front of me. Um, they breathe through their nose. They're actually anatomically not possible. It's not possible for them to breathe through their mouths. There is like a reason why we have two separate cavities in our heads, right? And they breathe through their belly, and you can see that belly like going up and down very like intensely and rhythmically. And so that's how we are all brought or came into this world. But as we tend to grow older, we dislearn this optimal breathing pattern because we sit down for 8 hours on a chair a day, we fall, we have injuries, we have traumas, we have pressure put on us, and so on. And so pretty quickly, from the moment that a child is like aware of their surroundings and so on, they dislearn this very efficient breathing pattern. And that breathing takes in oxygen and is like the fuel for your whole body, your whole system. That is like the foundation of everything in your body. So if we dislearn that optimal breathing pattern, we start to mess around with that optimum. And I couldn't agree more. That's why it's super important to learn our children how to go back to that very efficient breathing pattern. And also from the moments that we start to experience stress, which often is with children, and it's just so intense for them, they don't really know what's happening. But then breath is like a very easy tool for them as well to learn to or to start to learn to regulate themselves. And interestingly, just as you just mentioned, so we have Moonbird, we put that on the market. And we've always been very close to our end consumers, collecting feedback from them, optimizing our products, and so on. Very quickly, we noticed that parents shared that they had the Moonbird, bought it for themselves, but that the product really resonates really well with their children as well, and that their
Mhm.
children were using it. And then the story was like you can form your hands as a nest. You put the Moonbird inside, and it's a bird that's breathing. And when like the belly of the bird expands, the belly of the child expands and contracts when the Moonbird closes down again. And so children then breathe with this small bird in their hand, and it's a very easy and screen-free way helping
Mhm.
children to relax and to tap into these benefits of breath work, which then ultimately indeed like led us to develop the Moonbuddy, which is
Mhm.
our second hero product. And these are small, we call them screen-free breathing buddies for children, which acts like similar as the Moonbird. It's a bit different in the sense that there is no sensor incorporated, so you can't connect it with an application. You don't have the biofeedback component and so on. But we did lots of interviews with children and parents, and they don't really need that. Like for them, the most important feature of the product really is just like the expansion and contraction of the belly of
Mhm.
the product. And by that, we were also able to cut the cost of the product. So this one is like almost half the price of the Moonbird. And that's working really well. And that's for me, it's really like the essence of where we want to go. We not only just want to create awareness around breath work and the benefits of it, but we really want to make sure that children at a very young age learn to use this tool, because if we learn it when we're young, we can tap into these benefits our whole lives long. And I just really
Right.
believe the world would be like a more beautiful place if we if we could use this on our own and share this with others as well.
I have a big smile on my face because when first of all, this is brilliant. I love it. Anything that helps children, especially from the younger, the better, to have more self awareness and self regulation. I feel like is one of the best gifts we can give to humanity. As clinicians, oftentimes we're trying to fix broken adults, and you're just like, man, I wish I could travel back in time because here's where a lot of your issues started. And not that things aren't fixable, but you could have enjoyed a much better quality of life leading up to this point too, had you known how to regulate your nervous system. And because most adults these days, their nervous systems are dysregulated, that's what they're modeling to their children. And
Mhm.
so they're kind of passing down these non-genetic but epigenetic traits to their children,
Mhm.
and perhaps modeling something that they, if they knew what they were doing, they would do different. They just don't know. And so
Mhm.
I love that you've created this, and I love that it's screen free. I love that it's like very low tech in the sense that it's not pairing with a device, because I feel like that's important too.
Mhm.
That may be a separate conversation, but just kind of reducing children's exposure to screens, and even
Right.
when you sometimes when you have too much data, you don't even know what the data means, right?
Mhm.
All you care
Exactly.
of as a parent is your child is calm.
Yeah.
That's the main
Exactly.
thing. And so the reason I'm smiling is because whenever I give a gift, whenever a friend has a child, I try to give like a very attuned gift to help promote their health. And the thing I've been giving up till now is a light bulb. So anytime my wife is like, "Oh, so and so had a kid, we have to go buy them something." No, I'm like, "No, let's give them a red bulb, and they'll thank us later because their child's going to be the best sleeper in the world." But my son is always like, "Dad, you can't give that. That's such a like boomer gift. You can't give a light bulb to a kid." I'm like, "Trust me, everyone else is going to buy them something, and they're going to outgrow it in a couple of weeks, or maybe buy them something and they're going to wear it once. They'll have this bulb forever." So I buy like salt lamps and red
Mhm.
bulbs and things like that for kids. But now I know what to get all of my friends who have children is a Moonbuddy. That's like the perfect gift.
Yeah, it actually is a perfect gift. And that's a feedback that we've been getting as well from parents because there are not a lot of options if you want to calm your kid down. It's just so easy to put them in front of a screen and it also works.
Mm-hmm.
It works in a sense that they're calm at that moment, but inside it doesn't help their nervous system at all. And so if you want to
Yeah.
put it to bed or whatever, they're still like hyped up from looking at that screen and the flashy lights and everything and blue light hitting them the whole day and so on. So yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think that the Moonbuddy is a perfect gift. And also interesting to tell you is that we've actually been gifting Moonbuddies to schools as well. Like we have a circular product cycle. So products that we get back, we refurbish and we put them aside either for research or we give them to schools.
Mm.
And I think in the US, we've already gifted like a couple of Moonbuddies to around 20 schools and in Belgium as well. The program has just been set up, but it's been really interesting. I just asked these schools to share some feedback with me of how the product is doing. And what I found really interesting is that teachers who are really mindful of kids who are overstimulated in classes, um, they try to help these children. And most of the times, it's like if you feel overstimulated or it's not going, you can leave the classroom and you go to like a specific teacher who can ask some questions and calm you down and whatever. But then the child has to leave the classroom and they
Mm.
miss some class, which is also not good for them. And so what the teacher told me with the Moon Buddies, what she loves is that they have two in classroom and that children now are aware of this and they can just grab them when they feel that they have a difficult moment, but they can self-regulate in the classroom, so they can stay in the class and they don't have to skip any education. And so yeah, I think this is just those kind of like small things really warm my heart because then I think
Mm.
I'm just proud at what we've done and what we're doing.
Yeah, no, I absolutely love that. And what's coming up for me, because now my entrepreneurial brain is turned on, is I wonder what it would be like to have almost like, how they have something called Build a Bear. Do you guys have that in Belgium? Build a Bear? No.
No.
So it's like a store you go into. They have it in Canada and the US, and you build a custom bear. So you
Okay.
can put on custom clothing, and there's different animals and things like that. And you stuff it, and you can put a little heart in it. And I'm thinking a Moonbird, in that stuffy would be perfect. And you could just like, zip it and unzip it if you need to wash it. And then the Moonbird goes in the middle. So now their stuffy is breathing with them, right? Like that
Yeah,
would be a
that's like
fun.
sounds like a perfect collab. I'm gonna like write
Yeah.
it down, reach out to them.
Yeah, that's super awesome. You could patent the first bear with a little zipper that
Yeah,
has its own like, lungs, because a lot of times they put hearts in bears and things like that, right? But they don't put lungs in them, and this would be like the perfect
true. Yeah.
collaborative partnership. Yeah, that's fun. That could be fun.
Thank you for that. I love it. Yeah.
Yeah, so We know that the breath is important for a
Mhm.
variety of reasons, right? For nervous system regulation, but also for facial structure formation, for proper immune system function. What are
Mhm.
some things that, if a parent's watching this or somebody's listening to this and they want to maybe self-assess if they're breathing well or if their nervous system is functioning optimally? What are some things that they can do to check in with themselves and perhaps if they're not regulated, then I certainly think the Moonbird would be a great intervention for them.
Yeah, absolutely. So there are some steps that I do to check in with myself. And the most important thing is as well here is that you practice this consistently. So you can a bit like evaluate yourself over time and check in with yourself, like how am I doing now versus what I'm used to seeing. And the primary thing what I do is just to like rest my attention on my breath, not changing anything in that moment, and just following my breathing rhythm. And I try to evaluate whether that's in tune with what it normally is or whether that's off. And so you will not notice it the first time, but after you do that like a couple times, you'll start to understand what is a normal breathing pattern and rhythm for you versus when it's off. There are like some exercises you can do with drawing waves up and down when you're breathing in and out, and then like counting the tops to really have a number on that to
Mm.
make it more visible or to measure it. But I don't even think that that's necessary. I can just like tune in with myself, check my breathing rhythm. And then another aspect that I check in as well is like my position. I notice when I'm stressed that like my shoulders go up a little bit, and that
Mm.
when I'm relaxed, I'm just my shoulders go down. I literally have more space to breathe as well. And there is like an easy trick as well, which you can do, which is putting your fingers underneath your ribs as well. And if that goes smoothly and it doesn't hurt, it means that your diaphragm is relaxed. Whereas when you're super stressed, that you'll feel that over there. So that's like a quick check that you can do to just see how your diaphragm is. And your diaphragm is the most important muscle to breathe. And so it's really important that that muscle is relaxed and can properly function by going up and down. So those are like a couple, yeah, quick tips I can recommend to check in with yourself.
Yeah, it's always good to check in periodically throughout the day.
Mm.
One of the things that I've tried to help clients do is adopt something called tiny habits model for behavior change, which you're probably familiar with. So,
Mhm.
for those of you that aren't, this is the model that BJ Fogg developed from Stanford about how behavior change takes place. And so all of us listening to this are probably trying to figure out a variety of different behaviors that we need to change. And, we want to lubricate that slide for people to get the results. So behavior equals MAP. The first thing is motivation. So you've got to be motivated intrinsically to create an outcome, right? Whatever that outcome is, better health in this case, better nervous system regulation. So motivation is the first thing. The next thing is ability. Do you have the capacity, the ability, the availability to create this change, right? We all have the capacity, availability to us to change the way we breathe and certainly at least create more awareness around it. And breath is modifiable. It doesn't mean it has to be perfect, but we can be directionally accurate, right? If you want to be calm, you can slow your breath down. If you want to be a little bit more excited or have more energy, you can use your breath to stimulate energy production and, you know, create a pharmaceutical level change in your body instantly almost.
Mhm.
And so ability is there. It's predictable in all of us as well. So I know that 100% of the time, if you slow down your breath, you're going to slow down um, you're going to improve HRV, you're going to slow down your heart rate, and you're going to shift into a more parasympathetic state. That's universal, right? So we can apply these laws and tap into this ability that we all have. And the third thing is prompt. So prompt is what reminds you to do this thing. What calls to your attention. Oh, I need to tap into my breath. So what I have people do is I have them identify the thing that they think about the most. For you, Stefanie, it's probably your beautiful boy. That's probably the thing that you think of the most each day. For some people, it might be email, it might be their lover or their partner or their child or whatever it is. But just um, once every time you think of that person or that thing or do that thing, think of your breath next. So I just try to, identify a behavior and anchor the breath to that behavior. And that just serves as a check-in point. And then we
Mm.
want our breath to match the desired state. So if my desired state is to be calm, then I can just, tune in and say, okay, I need to slow down my breath. Or if your desired calm is enthusiasm or excitement, then, obviously you can increase the rate of your breath to stimulate your sympathetic nervous system with intention. So there's this behavior change model that's available to us. And if we start with what I believe, and I believe you believe, is the lead domino when it comes to our health, which is our breath and a regulated nervous system, then everything ties back to it and it's going to create profound shifts everywhere else. What I love about Moonbird is that once I have it with me, like I could be on a Zoom call and have it, right? And nobody has to see it because nobody has to see my hand. So people who get nervous at interviews, right, they could have that with them. Somebody who's on a computer a lot or interviewing people or just in a stressful meeting, right? They could have it there to self regulate. When you're driving, it's there to help you self regulate. Some people have a lot of road rage, right? And helping them, soothe their nervous system. Or if you're taking the train, right, you can just have it there and sit there, and it can be a great thing to incorporate into one's lifestyle. And it just, like almost invisibly fits into our lifestyle, the way it's designed and the way it's programmed. So I just love when people can create behavior change, and I love when there's tools like the Moonbird that can be super helpful for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And that's why we created this handheld tool, and we really wanted it to be portable as well. And it's funny that you mentioned all these different use cases. I got a message today from one of our users, and that always like warms my heart to see and to read. And she shared her birth story of her new son. And she told me actually that she used it during pre-labor and labor, which I did as well. So she actually checked in with me. She knew that I was pregnant, and she asked me, like, did you use it? How did you use it? Can you give me some tips? And I shared my story with her, and she now wrote back like, I welcomed my son a couple weeks ago, and I wanted to share back with you how my experience was. And that was just beautiful to read. And she actually put with it, like, I'd love for you to share that with more women so more women can go through this very special transitioning period more mindfully, more connected with their body as well.
Yeah, I love that. I'm sure there's so many stories even yet to be told about how impactful Moonbird and Moonbuddy are going to be. I can already see. I feel like every child should receive it from uh, you know as a gift, right? I
Mhm.
believe it's like essential for. I don't know if you can hear that. We have cicadas that are going crazy right now. But so I believe that every child should have this from as early on as possible. Every parent should definitely have this because those are some of the most stressful times in our lives where we need to be the most present and the most resilient. So
Mhm.
having a regulated nervous system helps regulate our child's nervous system, which you and I were talking about before we got on the call. So parents definitely need this because we're passing on um, that energy and all the our behaviors and everything onto our
Mhm.
children. We're creating their worldview. So even though they
Mhm.
may not understand what we're saying, they can read our and feel our body language, right, all the way down to our nervous system, and we're passing that on to them, right?
Mhm.
And so I think between the age of 0 and 7, it's really important for parents to have a regulated nervous system so their children have regulated nervous systems. And that's really what sets the direction of the sail of that individual in life is the state of their nervous system. So if we can get people paying more attention to it, the world would be a better place for sure. And then
Exactly.
anyone who's on a computer, anyone who's in the hospital, for example, right? Instead of getting somebody flowers, that cost, $100, get them like a Moonbuddy or get them a Moonbird, something that
Mm.
is tactile, something that they can squeeze, because sometimes people are mobilized, but at least if they're regulating their nervous system, they're at
Yeah.
least giving their body a fighting chance to heal properly.
Yeah, Absolutely. It's interesting to see. So we're a Belgian company, we're European, and we've been active here for already a couple of years. And it's interesting to see that here, hospitals and clinicians are also adopting and embracing this. So we regularly get an order from a hospital saying, we're at the psychiatric ward, or there is an oncology department, or like a different, there even is an obesity clinic. There was a girl, there was an anorexia clinic as well. And so all of these areas where people have pain and stress and underlying, it's all a dysregulated nervous system, are places where Moonbird can help. And here the clinical world is really starting to embrace that. And I just want to add, well, we're not a medical device, right? We're not going to solve obesity or anorexia or pain in general, but we can solve and alleviate a little bit of the stress, which in most cases like aggravates all of these things. And so it's interesting to see that the clinical world here is adopting this and is putting these products, in the hands of people that need it.
Oh, that's amazing. Stefanie, how can we be as a community most supportive? So there's clinicians that might be listening to this. There's, people who are health seekers that are listening to this. How can we be more supportive to the work you're doing? I'm obviously encouraging everyone to grab their Moonbird. But what else can we do to support your movement? Because I feel like you're doing something really special, and I want to make sure we kind of lean in and support where we can.
And that's really nice of you, Sachin. Well, a couple of things. First of all, we love to do research, and we want to demonstrate the effects of proper breathing, like in all the ways that we can do. So if you're open, and especially in the US, because we've got like 10-ish research projects either published or going on in Europe, but we'd love to have similar ones in the US as well. So if you're a physician or you're working in a clinic and you have the opportunity to engage in research projects, I would love to hear from you. Or even, in schools, we can also donate free devices. We can set up trials and studies to collect more evidence and get the word out. And then in general, my mission is not to sell devices, it's really to create that awareness. So whether it's for yourself or whether it's for your child or somebody that you have in mind that can benefit from this episode, or the benefits of breathwork in general, tell it to them, because it might be as simple as just changing their breathing. So there is no way why we should not like spread the word
Mhm.
about this very important topic.
Yeah, and here's I love that. And I love all that. Thank you. And we'll be certainly sure to I have some ideas that I'll talk to you offline about that could be helpful for you because we can actually help with research. We've got practitioners that and clients that wear Oura rings. So we could actually do like a trial and have people use a Moonbird and kind of see how their resilience and their nervous system regulation and sleep scores and things like that change. So definitely open to discussing that further. I also think that there's a wonderful opportunity, especially right now, because of the amount of stress that people are under, for practitioners to really, bring this into their practices. First, starting with themselves,
Mhm.
but then also recommending it or endorsing it. I don't know if you do wholesale or not, so if it makes sense for them to stock it, but I want to I want to be gifting more of these myself. Every time I speak to you, I get even more, no pun intended, inspired to share the work that you're doing. And I feel like there's such a huge uh, opportunity to be of service right now with what you're doing that we
Mhm.
just need more people becoming aware of it. And at least they now have the choice, right? There's something that can help them become more conscientious human beings by having a regulated nervous system. It just makes the whole world a better place.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for mentioning that about Aura, Sachin, because earlier before we were recording the podcast, you shared a story with me about your Aura ring. Would
Mm-hmm.
you mind telling that again? Because I think that that's like, I find that so fascinating. And we've never like literally ever done a study with Aura or Whoop, which I'd love to do to make sure that we can demonstrate what you told
Mm-hmm.
me.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Absolutely. So there's a hidden feature that a lot of people don't know about
Mm.
in Aura Ring, and it essentially looks at your daytime stress and recovery levels. So it'll tell you, if you're restored, relaxed, engaged, or stressed. And, based on your heart rate, your movement, it kind of calculates all that. And when I'm on a plane, it's usually going to be more on the engaged side, not necessarily stressed, but definitely not restored. And so what I did is I have my Moonbird in my travel bag, and so I pulled it out, I shook it awake. That's all you have to do, and then just had it in my hand and went about my trip, went about my plane session. But at an unconscious level, my body was breathing nice and slow without me having to think about it. It just like eventually your nervous system just tunes into that breathing cadence. And what it showed is that I was restored the entire flight. So my ring thought I was like in a deep state of meditation, which in some ways I was, but I was active doing work, right? But it was because my breathing was dialed in. So when we can be active and still be in a restorative state and actually do better work when we're in that state versus being like overly stimulated. So I know some people get a lot of anxiety when they travel. I don't get anxiety when I travel, but it's just stressful in and out of airports and, you know,
Yeah.
not sleeping enough and all those type of things. But for some people that could be a wonderful, adjunct to just dial their nervous system in. And here's where it really helped me. I didn't even tell you this story. So I got a normally I'm a bit claustrophobic. I don't mind tight spaces if I can slide out. So I can be in a tight space, but if there's no exit for me, then I get really anxious. And so I sat on a plane flying from San Francisco to Toronto, and somehow I ended up in the window seat. And believe it or not, I'd rather be in the middle than the window because there's only one person in the way to get out.
Yeah.
So I'm in the window seat and I'm like, oh my God, like this sucks. And the lady who was sitting in the aisle, she was a bit on the heavier side. And then I'm like, okay, I wonder who's going to sit in the middle here. And then the lady sat in the middle and she was even bigger than the other lady. So I was like squished into the window seat and I'm asking them, hey, ladies, like, do any of you want to change? Like, I don't mind sitting in the middle. And they both declined because they were both friends. They wanted to sit next to each other. And so I pulled out my Moonbird and I breathed my way through it. And
Oh my God.
so I was somehow able to not have to use a bathroom for 5 hours, that's a miracle because I tend to drink a lot of water. And I didn't have any anxiety or panic. And I was able to get through the entire flight thanks to my Moonbird. So thank you for
Uh,
for saving me from what could have been a very horrible, experience for me in my own head, right? Like
exactly.
anybody looking in wouldn't think anything, but it was my own story that I had made up, and it was my breath that saved the day, and the
Kept you
Moonbird that
grounded.
helped me saved it.
Oh my God, I love that. Yeah, I wasn't aware of that. Thank you for sharing that, Sachin.
Yeah, of course, of course. So, Stephanie, what's the best way? I know we'll have a special link for people to use, so they'll be able to tap into a special discount that we're offering. I'd
Mhm.
love to know, where can people follow the work you're doing? Maybe your website, Instagram handle, on social media, and I know certainly, we'll be sure to share where people can get their own. For practitioners, you did mention that you warehouse or not warehouse, but you wholesale Moonbirds. So if that's an option, people can reach out to you guys and figure out how to do that. What's the best way for people to connect with you?
Yeah, you can go to our website, moonbird.life, and our Instagram handle is the same, moonbird.life, where we share lots of tips and insights on the research that we publish, user stories, and so on. And if you want to reach out or you're interested in purchasing a larger amount, you can do that by hello@moonbird.life as well. Yeah.
Okay, and it's dot life, life.
Life, correct. Yes.
Wonderful.
Perfect.
Thank you so much. Any final words of wisdom that you want to share, Stephanie?
Just breathe.
I love it. Well, words of wisdom for sure. And
Very short, and it's not more than that, but it's the basics. Just breathe and be mindful about it.
yeah, it always starts with the fundamentals. So
Mhm.
Michael Jordan would start every basketball practice with a chest pass, not a 360 dunk. And what I find that is most people these days, they're trying to do like a 360 dunk or a bicycle kick or something crazy. Uh,
Mm.
but they really need to go back to the basics. And so to me, that foundation is really the breath. It's the first thing that we do, right? That everyone's paying attention to is the child breathing. It's one of the last things that, if people are there to witness our transition, it's one of the last things we'll do actively.
Mhm.
And it's just a beautiful thing for us to, a companion for us to have along the way. And if we know
Mhm.
how to speak to it, it could be our best friend. And if we don't know, if we ignore it, it could be our worst enemy without even us realizing it. So I do really think that it's the foundation to build
Mhm.
everything off of. And you've built a tool that helps us tap into that more easily. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I hope we can reach a lot of people, and thank you for offering this platform as well, Sachin. Yeah.
My pleasure. Have a wonderful rest of your day, Stefanie. Here's to better breathing for everyone.
Yes. Bye. Thank you.